Dirty Birds fans, week 2 is basically here, which means we got to talk a little bit about the Falcons against the Vikings. Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I believe the Atlanta Falcons can dominate the Minnesota Vikings. I've highlighted 5 areas the Falcons can beat the Vikings in, both offensively and defensively. I think you're going to find that these are not only carryovers from week 1, but just offensive and defensive philosophies that are just going to be good to go, good to have going forward, not only on Sunday Night Football, but for the rest of the season. Now, before we get into that, we got to get back on track. The winning streak starts right here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up icon because the winning streak starts right here on Falcons Today. If you want the Dirty Birds to win, hit the thumbs up button. Let's start with our keys to victory. First things first, you got to stack 8 men in the box. Now, in case you aren't familiar with this term, the box is essentially how many guys you're lining up in a specific group on the defensive side. It starts with the defensive line. The Chicago Bears did the wrong thing against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. They only stacked 8 men in the box against the Vikings 20% of the time. Why is that a bad thing? Well, with the offensive firepower that the Vikings have, most of the time, teams are going to play up against the pass. So when you don't stack the box, that allows guys like Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, to really do damage on the ground. And that's exactly what they did against the Bears. They ran for 120 yards on Monday night. That's way too much to old Aaron Jones and backup running back Jordan Mason. So if you're allowing 120 yards on the ground to these guys, you clearly didn't go in with the right game plan on the defensive line. And also, I think the Falcons' defense is good enough to handle this. You're going to see this a lot. Kevin O'Connell loves running 12-man personnel to establish the run. He likes putting 2 tight end sets on either side of his tackles. That is a proven statistic and a proven formation to allow your running backs to find extra holes. It basically creates another gap. So when I watched what the Bears did, I said they did it all wrong. You've got to stack the box and take away the run. That also will force J.J. McCarthy to be the one to beat you. And as we saw on Monday night, through 3 quarters, he wasn't nearly good enough to pick apart the Bears' defense. So the Falcons have an opportunity to really establish themselves and put all of the pressure on this young quarterback. And speaking of the defense, here's what I want you to do. Grade the Falcons' defense from week 1. I can't give it an A because situationally they gave up a couple of touchdowns that they shouldn't have. So I'll give it a B. 23 points to a high-powered offense is really, really good stuff. I liked what I saw. Need a little bit more sacks. The pressures were there. Now it's time to finish. So I'll give it a B, but let me know in the comment section down below. Let's go to our second key to victory. Scheme more design blitz. This is a message for Jeff Ulbrich. Why do I say this? Because the Falcons, from what I saw, loved blitzing on 3rd down, which is like the most stereotypical time to blitz. And they did a pretty good job of it. At one point, Baker Mayfield was 0 of 6 on the day when Falcons applied pressure, and 9 of 13 went in a clean pocket. But I can guarantee you that if I went back and looked at the tape and I watched Baker Mayfield complete passes when he had a clean pocket, most of them probably were on 1st and 2nd down. I'd be willing to bet money on it. So you've got to be able to scheme more blitzes on earlier downs. There's nothing wrong with on 1st and 10 sending a 7-man pass rush. Why not? Especially on a young quarterback like J.J. McCarthy, who's probably not ready for it. And like I said, the Falcons got pressure on Baker. Divine Diablo had 4. JPJ had 4. Rook had 4. So putting pressure on the opposing quarterback wasn't a problem. It was finishing. In fact, they generated 40.5% pressure rate on the Buccaneers on dropbacks in week 1. That was like 7th in the entire NFL. That's awesome. That's really, really good stuff. It means your players are getting into the backfield. But you can't just blitz on 3rd down. You've got to have more designed blitzes, something that Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, is really, really good at. He blitzes all the time. We'll touch on that here in just a little bit. Now, before I get into my other keys to victory, today's episode is, of course, sponsored by HelloFresh. You may have heard of HelloFresh before, but not quite like this. It is bigger. That's right. It's doubled its menu. You can now choose from 100 options each week, including new seasonal dishes and recipes from around the world. Dig into bigger portions that'll keep everybody satisfied. It's healthier. Feel great with an even healthier menu filled with high-protein and veggie-packed recipes. HelloFresh now helps you eat greener with new veggie-packed recipes that have 2 or more veggies included. This is not the HelloFresh you remember, my friends. They send chef-crafted recipes and fresh ingredients to your home. And the best way to cook just got better. Go to HelloFresh.com/FalconsChat10FM now to get 10 free meals plus a free item for life. That's 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied at discount. On first box, new subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's HelloFresh.com/FalconsChat10FM to get 10 free meals plus a free item for life. I will have all of that in the comments and description of today's video. Thank you to HelloFresh. Third key to victory. Please, Zach Robinson, more snaps under center. I'm tired of watching the same pistol formation over and over and over again. Why? It leads to poor results. The Falcons were 27th in week 1 in yards per carry at 2.5. That's with Bijan Robinson, the second best running back, in my opinion, in the entire NFL. That's unacceptable because it's predictable. It's stale. And with a kind of makeshift offensive line at the right tackle position, it's not good enough. So what do you have to do? Go under center. If you're going to use the zone blocking scheme like Zach Robinson runs, do something like this. Put more tight ends in. You kept 4 of them on your 53-man roster. Use them. Create more holes. Create more separation. You can't do that when you're in the same pistol formation all the time. Trust me when I say this. Brian Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. He's watching the tape. He knows what they like to run. And if you've got Bijan Robinson and you've got his yang to Bijan's yin in Tyler Algier and Nathan Carter, who I believe at some point this season can make a big difference. This is a very good running back room. You got to establish the run. It's also going to be Michael Penix Jr.'s best friend. So please, hear my plead. More snaps under center. It'll do everybody a load of good. Last question for you about the run game. Will Bijan have more than 70 yards rushing? Yes or no? I'm going to say slightly less. I think the Falcons go over 100 this week, but maybe not specifically from Bijan himself. Either way, let me know in the comment section down below. All right, this one's more in response to the aggressiveness that Brian Flores will show you against the blitz. Got to pass more out into the flat, something that I thought Michael Penix Jr. actually did pretty well in week 1 against the Bucs. But remember what I said. He's the highest blitzing defensive coordinator in the NFL. For those of you who know about football, how do you beat the blitz? You get the ball out quick and you pass it out into the flat because usually nobody's guarding those outside corners. Not the cornerback position, but those outside corners on the field. The best way to beat the blitz is to flood a wide receiver or a tight end, like Kyle Pitts, to the flat and get rid of that ball quickly. It doesn't need to be anything insane. You don't need to gain 45 yards. 8, 9 yards on a flood, and you will absolutely take away what Brian Flores does the best. Because the more and more you blitz and the more success you have against the blitz, the more he's going to back off and play more zone coverage. He's not going to stick up in man. He's going to drop back in coverage and maybe only rush 3 players. That's where you can make your living if you're an opposing quarterback, specifically in this case, Michael Penix Jr. Number 5. Why does this even have to be one? Make your kicks. I think we can all agree that Michael Penix Jr. did an amazing job of driving this team down the field to put the Falcons in a position to tie that ball game up against the Tampa Bay, and then who knows what goes on in overtime. But Koo misses. And that's why you went out and signed John Parker Romo, and that's why you've got Lenny Krieg waiting in the wings on the practice squad as well. The leash on Younghoe Koo is an inch long. In fact, Raheem Morris said today at his press conference, the kicking battle started today at practice. So at the time of this recording, Koo is still named the kicker. But that could very well change by the end of Thursday. You could hear something change by Saturday morning. We don't know yet. But I think it's telling that you went in and you're working out players to become your new kicker because Koo is not getting the job done. He hasn't since the beginning of last season. 27 to 37 since the beginning of last year. That's below a 73% clip. Fourth worst in the NFL, behind three players that are no longer on their respective teams. So I'll ask you that question. What does that mean? It means you got to be more clutch. You need a fresh leg. And I'm not even saying that John Parker Romo is a better kicker. I mean, he got waived by the Patriots on their 90-man roster this year to make room for the rookie Andy Borgalis, who they did draft, by the way. But why not give Krieg a shot? Because at this point, you have to. You need a fresh leg. So pick a kicker for me. Excuse me. Koo, type K, Romo, type R, or for Krieg, type L for Lenny. At this point, I'm typing my L for Lenny. I need to see something else. But I'll give Koo one more game if Raheem Morris, decides to name him the starter. But that's about it. You better be perfect on Sunday. Let's get back on track one more time in case you haven't already hit that thumbs up icon. Make sure you don't jinx the Dirty Birds. Until next time, my friends, rise up and be cool.